Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into this video. Today we're going to relate the encounters submitted by a channel viewer. The different locations are too far away for me to conveniently visit, so I've substituted footage with some Google Maps screen recordings and AI generated graphics. So let's have a look. First, let's establish the location. The first occurs in the vicinity of the southeast corner of Lanark County, Ontario, Montague Township, between the towns of Merrickville and Burritts Rapids, and just north of the Burritts Correctional Institute. My father and I began hunting in the southwest corner of a huge swamp that stretches from just southwest of Ottawa, at least that branch does. Dad would park his car within 150 feet of where he would stand, and I would wade about half a mile east along a submerged section of a town line road, deep enough that hip waders were barely adequate, and I was careful and slow going. I continually felt that I was being watched by an unfriendly creature, but never saw anything. I did hear the occasional movement nearby, but never saw a thing. Being a typical teenage guy of the 60s, I put it down to an overactive imagination and toughed it out, at least the first 8 or 10 times. I did stay there until full dark and waited back while I could still see, to be teased by Dad for chickening out until I explained how deep it was in most spots. So not much excitement there so far, just tension and stress. The next incident occurred about 5 miles west of Merrickville in an area called the Devil's Triangle, at least locally, between a section of the old Highway 43 and the single train tracks that curve through the area, and north from there for about half a mile further, defined by a gravel side road that goes north about half mile west of the train tracks. It's an area of dense mixed forest with a lot of twisted deformed trees. During deer hunting in the first week of November, it was my job to walk the bush to drive out any deer in there, and this one shouldn't have taken more than 45 minutes to go through. It didn't. It took me more than an hour and a half. During the walk, I had the now familiar sensation of being watched in an unfriendly way and shadowed all the way through. When I got out finally, I flat refused to ever walk that stretch again, much to the amusement of the other 5 members of our small hunt group. That stayed like that until the next year when I couldn't be there that day and 2 of the adults did the drive. We never hunted there again, and again nothing was seen. The third and dangerous incident occurred back in the vicinity of the Reform Institute where Dad worked. They had a huge farm at the time, late 60s, that was nearly self-sufficient, and inmates supplied the labor with some trusted ones being assigned for more mobile duties. One of these trustees was assigned to the job of taking the refuse daily to an incinerator about 3/4 of a mile north of the buildings and burning it. The hauling was a daily chore in the afternoon, and it was stored in a closed shed until there was sufficient for a burn. The system worked very well until late in August, I believe in '68, when the trustee was scared by a rogue bear and refused to go back until the bear was chased off. Dad was asked if he and I could go in and deal with it. So in we went after supper one evening. Neither of us had ever seen a wild bear, but having seen them on our old black and white TV and in hunting magazines, we had a fair idea of what we were dealing with. The incinerator and shed were positioned in a strip of bush about maybe 200 feet wide between their fields and a big hydro right-of-way. Because of the location, close to the institution, and we would be very close to the bear, we elected to arm ourselves with 12-gauge shotguns and rifled slugs. We walked in from where we normally parked Dad's car when duck hunting the swamp, as quiet as possible. Inspecting the shed in the vicinity, we came to the conclusion that something was odd. No damage to the shed or incinerator building, and no garbage everywhere, which we'd been told by someone sometime before. Anyway, we settled in to wait, myself at the base of the big maple tree about 100 feet away from the incinerator, and Dad about the same in the cedars on the other side. We had been there about an hour when that old familiar feeling of being watched and not wanted there started up again. Eventually, I felt that one was behind me, possibly the other side of the maple, and I could sense two, one on each side, very near Dad. We were fairly heavily armed, but I finally, after a while, realized that we were outflanked and in serious danger. So I signaled Dad that it was about time to leave now. It didn't take many seconds for him to agree. In fact, this was the only time that I ever saw my World War II Bren Gunner father obviously scared. Whatever these were, we kept our guns loaded and were vigilant all the way back to our car. We didn't unload the shotguns until we were in the car with it running and moving away. I know that we were flanked all the way to the car and never saw anything, despite the fact that the stretch of trees between the fields and the hydro lines wasn't all that wide. Nothing was said about our adventure other than that they were not bears. I think Dad told our friend, the district head game warden, who we knew, and probably told him to stay back out in the field in a vehicle armed with heavy rifles. At the time, I had no idea what these were, other than extremely dangerous and organized somewhat like a wolf pack. It's only fairly recently, after listening to others' encounters on YouTube, that I have come to believe that these were a pack of dogmen, and that the three I located mentally probably weren't all of them. At the time, I was relieved to get out of there safely. Now, with what I know and believe, I firmly believe we were damn lucky that I didn't try to shoot our way out. It never really bothered me at the time or afterwards, and now it's been those decades ago, and it's just memories. The last incident, when I became a knower, as Steve Ishdahl tagged us, was funny to me, and I believe that I saw the mischievous side of Sabe. One occurred in late August '97, years after any other incidents along Highway 17 in the northeast of Lake Superior. My mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given a little more than a month to live. We had to wait for our two youngest to return from summer Army cadet camp before we could go down. At the time, I had a '76 Chevy pickup with a cab and modified box for road trips and sleeping. My three teens loved it. We were also towing an old heavy 17-foot camper for when we got to my parents' place. After getting to the south of Nipigon around 1 a.m., I was way too tired to continue, and so, as per our usual practice, I pulled off the road into an old road construction park that I knew of. There were about 6 more cars and a couple of semi-trucks already overnighting, so I pulled right to the back of the park. Our 3 kids were sound asleep under the cap, and we elected to sleep in the truck. About 4 a.m., we woke up because the truck was rocking hard from side to side quietly. My townie wife was afraid that it was an earthquake until I said no, it was somebody or something deliberately rocking us. I stepped on the brakes to put some light out there and could see 2 figures in the side mirrors, one on each side. The one on my side was head and shoulders above the cap roof, and the one on the passenger side barely came up to the cap roof, so about 7 feet and 5 feet. They were both covered in long, shaggy hair except for their face and hands. My wife asked what they were, and I told her what was going on and started to panic a bit. So figuring if I told her that Bigfoot were attacking, she would really panic. I told her it was bears. She immediately said that they were probably after the kids' junk food snacks, and her children were in danger, and immediately ordered me to get us out of there, which, of course, being a good obedient husband, I did. Leaving, I could see that there was nobody else there. We were the last ones to leave. The whole incident was maybe 5 minutes long, and I never felt in danger. In fact, I sensed humor and mental laughter from the critters, just like a pair of teenagers pranking seniors in school. Oddly enough, our kids slept through it all. And those are my stories as I remember them in my dotage. Hopefully not way too long for you. As you can see, I have experienced both sides of Sabe experience, which has shown me that like humans, they have different personalities and temperaments. As long as they are the friendly ones, I would love to make friends with a family. Thanks everyone everyone for watching this video. I appreciate all of you that took the time to do so. If you have any encounter experiences that you would like to share, feel free to contact me via the comments below or email me at uppercanadasasquatch@gmail.com. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.